What are the steps to become an airline pilot? How do I become an airline pilot? How do I become an airline pilot? So I'm gonna answer the $1 million question that is always asked over and over. I get this question so many times that I just had to make this video so that I can break it down for you. There's a lot of reasons as to why so many people are wanting to become pilots now. It's an amazing career to have. The pay is great, the travel benefits are amazing, but then again, you know, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to tell you how to do that if you've already decided that this is something that you might want to consider for your career. So I'm gonna break down these steps for you. I've been doing this for a while, not just flying, but also helping people pursue their goals and dreams when it comes to becoming a pilot. And the first thing I want you guys to consider when you're thinking about these steps is it ain't easy. Like, even though I could break it down to steps, you could follow these steps, but it ain't gonna be easy. You're gonna need someone to help you along the way to get there, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's your partners, whether it's your peers, but don't try to do this alone because it's a journey. This is not a sprint. Don't burn yourself out. But just know it's definitely worth it. Also, you gotta make sure that you are all the way committed to this. Yeah, you can kind of part-time do it, but if you're part-time doing this, it's gonna take you forever to become an airline pilot. And if you gotta start off part-time before you get full-time, then you know you gotta do what you gotta do. But ultimately, you gotta make this your #1 priority, or else, like anything, you can half do the steps and it ain't gonna get you nowhere. And it ain't nobody's fault but your own. You gotta make this a priority. I can't make this a priority. I can't fly the plane for you. That's on you. But I tell you, if you follow these steps, you stay dedicated, man, you got it in the bag. Step 1 is one of the most important steps, which is why it's #1, is you gotta get money. When it comes to flying and getting all these ratings, it costs about $100,000 plus or minus 15,000. I mean, it may be more, maybe a little bit less, but you need to, like, in your mind know that it's gonna cost you 6 figures to get to becoming an airline pilot. There's some things you can do to kind of set yourself up for success when it comes to being ready for that. You gotta financially be able to maneuver and make your way through this. One thing, you gotta have a budget. So set a budget from the beginning to the end and try to stick to it. Do your best to it. That's a lot of money, so you got a budget. And that's not just your flying budget, but that's your life budget. Because if you're not managing your regular household bills, all those other things, or if you got a family, that's another thing. You know, you gotta tie that into it when it comes to your budget. But you gotta budget it, or else it's gonna be impossible to be able to overcome the financial barrier of becoming a pilot. Now, how to get money? There's a few ways to. I'm gonna talk about one, which is loans, because there are a lot of different banks and different programs where you can get loans that'll finance you all the way through training. Now, the benefit of that is you'll have all your training paid for, you don't gotta worry about it, and you can just focus on flying the airplane. Now, of course, the downside is a loan. But with what these airlines are paying and the bonuses are coming out, it may be an option that you wanna consider. Now, I'm not saying this way is the best way, but I am saying that it is a way, and you don't want to take it off the table. So, savings. If you got money saved up, or you can save money to be able to fly for flight training, then cool. Then that's easy, because you got money set aside. Everybody ain't got 100 stacks just sitting around. You never know. You might got family friends willing to give you the money to help you with training. You might got some really good friends. But really, if you got your family that's willing to help you support, that's one way to do it. And then we got scholarships. I put scholarships on here last because you can get scholarships, but rarely will you be able to get scholarships that cover the entire cost of your flight training. So don't put all your eggs in that basket that scholarships is the only way you're gonna focus on making it happen, because it just isn't realistic. There are way more aspiring pilots that need money than there are scholarships, but there are a lot of scholarships. So still make sure you apply, but just don't make that your only plan. And you know, a little part-time job might help, side hustle, something to bring in some extra money to be able to pay for flight trainers. You already know that cost ain't no joke, and it ain't getting cheaper by the day. So once you got your money straight, then you can start focusing on other things. Choosing flight school is one of the most important decisions that you're gonna make when it comes, because that's where you're gonna learn to fly. So #1 thing is the distance. How far are you from the school? How easy is it gonna be for you to get to training, to get to your flight lessons? So you gotta figure out, is it somewhere that's close to your job, close to your home, or are you willing to move to wherever your flight school at? That's the #1 thing, in my opinion, that's important. Number 2, whether it's Part 61 or Part 141. Now, I'm not going to go way into detail on Part 141 or Part 61. Part 141 is scrutinized more heavily by the FAA. Part 61 gives more flexibility in the things you can do when earning your ratings. And because Part 141 is so specifically structured, you can get some of your ratings with a lower number of hours. Now, that doesn't mean that Part 141 is going to be better for you. It just depends. So make sure when you go talk to the schools that you actually ask them if they teach Part 61, Part 141, and what's going to work for you. Third is the airplanes. So check the airplanes out. Are they new? Are they old? How safe is the school? Things like that when it comes to the airplanes, and how safe do you feel when you're flying in these airplanes. And also remember too, this is your first time into flying. A lot of places have older planes because older planes are really what's out there. You might be learning to fly a plane that was built in the 70s or 80s, but because of all the regulations and the inspections and everything, they should still be safe even if they're old planes. So keep that in mind. Next are the instructors. Do you get along well with the instructors? Go meet the instructors. Now, I'm not saying you gotta be buddy-buddy with the instructors or they gotta be nice, but you do have to be able to get along with them and feel that you can get something from them and that they can teach you. So they also gotta be competent. Competency, being able to get along with them is important. Now, how do you figure all these things out? Well, you gotta go visit the school, call the school, talk to people at the school. But ultimately, go get a discovery flight at the school. So if you're considering flying with the school, you should go and fly at the school. Run through the process of what it's like to get scheduled, to do the flying with the school, and that'll give you a good little warm fuzzy about whether or not the school's a good fit for you. Now, if you notice on this list, and nowhere did I put you need to look at how much it costs to go to that school. Not saying money isn't a factor, but the thing is, at the end of the day, the cost is a cost. For the most part, most schools are gonna cost about the same, plus or minus, 20% or whatever. Schools that cost a lot are gonna have maybe better airplanes, more newer planes, more straight. There's a lot of things that more expensive schools can be, but if you go looking for a deal, you might find a school that has lower cost instructors, lower cost airplanes, but what are you missing there? Are they lacking the instructor availability? Do they have instructors? Do they have do they only have a certain number of planes? If one plane goes down, will you still be able to get training? So that's why I say I would not put money on your list of things that you consider, first when it comes to choosing a flight school. You still gotta count it because you gotta do your budget, like I said, it's step number 1. But it should not be a factor when it comes to what school you go to. Get the one that's close enough, all that. So that's number 2, choosing your flight school. All right, getting your FAA Class I Medical. This is important to get this early because even though you don't need a Class 1 in order to get your private pilot certificate, you will need it when it comes time to become an airline pilot. And you don't want to spend all this time and money and you can't pass a flying Class 1 or a Class I Medical. So you want to make sure that if you do have any major issues, that when you talk to the medical examiner, that you can address them, see if there's special issuance that you can get or anything like that, so they can be addressed early, and then you ain't got to worry about it for the rest of the time. So knock that out, get that done. This is getting your private pilot certificate. Now you got the school, you got the money, you're good on the physical. It's time to get grinding and get in the air and start flying. This is gonna be the foundation of your flying education and the flying that you're gonna do that's gonna get you to become an airline pilot. The private pilot certificate takes you about the minimum is 40 hours of flight training, but generally people get it done about 60, 65. And it takes people about 6 months if you're doing it full time. If you're doing it part time, it'll take you much longer. It consists of flight training, the ground school, a written exam that you gotta take, an oral exam, and then a practical exam with the FAA or a designated pilot examiner to make sure you can demonstrate all the maneuvers and understand all the knowledge areas when it comes to being a private pilot. And with the private pilot, it's a really big steep learning curve because it's unlike anything else you've ever learned. So you have to learn how to learn aviation. You can't just read a book and then think you're gonna have it. You can't just show up and the instructor's gonna teach you. You gotta study, you gotta learn how to chair fly, you gotta learn how to prepare for the flights, you gotta understand how to read the different regulations, and really start to understand like where to find the different information you need on that particular lesson or on whatever training syllabus you're on. And these skills are gonna translate as you go to all the rest of your levels of training. So knock that out, that private pilot certificate. 5, this is getting your instrument rating and get your commercial pilot certificate. In these 2 phases, you're transitioning from being a private pilot where you're just flying for fun to being able to get to the point where you can fly in clouds, fly in bad weather, and then after getting your commercial rating, you can get paid to fly, get money. Your instrument rating is way more technical than your private pilot certificate. So you're gonna have to learn a lot more about and more in depth about your instruments, the systems in your airplane, and all the rules and regulations when it comes to airspace, when it comes to knowing how to shoot instrument approaches, and all that. Instrument rating takes you about 6 months to get done. Your commercial rating, you're gonna be building a lot of time, getting your cross countries in, doing night flying, going to all sorts of different airports, and essentially building up to about 250 hours and learning all the advanced maneuvers like chandelles, lazy 8s, power off 180s, and all your standards will have to be more tight because it's a commercial rating. You're leveling up. So all in all, with the instrument and the commercial rating, that's about 1.5 years of training that's gonna take you to get this done. And by now, you should have learned or got better at learning how to learn this aviation thing, how to understand the regulations, how to be able to look in what books to be able to find the answers you're looking for. You might do some multi-engine flying while you're in this phase, some technically advanced aircraft, and even some high-powered aircraft. I know for me, when I did my commercial rating, I did a lot of flying with a lot of my friends, doing cross countries all over the United States to build up that experience. So I hope you enjoy that phase too and get to do things like that. Next, we got your Certified Flight Instructor rating. Getting this rating is one that is gonna teach you how to teach people how to fly planes. You actually get to make pilots once you have this rating. And for the most part, this is the normal progression of pilot development. And there's some people that say that they don't want to become CFIs. All right, you know, that's cool, but this is the most common way, and there's a reason that it's the most common way. Yeah, everybody's not made to be an instructor, but sometimes you can become a good instructor. So I wouldn't say don't knock it just because you don't think you might want to do it. I say give it a shot and try. Now, this is a challenging certificate to get because you have the fundamentals of instruction written exam you got to take. You got your flight instructor written exam you got to take. Then you got the oral, which is the longest oral exam of all the ratings. But once you get through all that, do the practical test, man, it's in the bag. But it is challenging. And I will say that being a CFI is not for the weary. But by far, it's my favorite rating that I have to be able to give to the next generation of aviators, be able to help people progress in their career, and help people get their ratings. It's a good feeling. Step number 7 is time building. This is one from where you go from having either got your commercial rating or your CFI, and you might be at about 300 some hours or close to 300 hours, and you still got to get to 1500. Like, this is the longest part of your training, and it's the part that can kind of drag on because you can't really get to your ATP or get any real jobs till you really build some time. So how are you gonna reach that gap? How are you gonna bridge that gap between 300 hours and 1500? Well, there's a few different ways to do that. One, most common, is being a CFI. Next is your low-time pilot jobs. So this is surveying, banner towing, some of these other jobs that exist out there. And then you got self-funded. You buy an airplane and you just pay and just fly. That takes a lot. So let's take a look at those real quick. All right, now let's just look at the realistic timeline when it comes to time building phase here. A lot of people say, well, I'm gonna fly 100 hours a month so I can get there in 12.5 months. All right, if you fly 100 hours a month, you can get done in about 12.5 months. If you fly 70 hours, you get there in 18 months. If you fly 50 hours a month, you're gonna get done in 25 months. I say you gotta be realistic based on what you're doing to build your time. And although you wanna shoot for 100, it really depends on what your lifestyle is, playing your life on 50, and if you do more than that, you're winning. You know, I say aiming for like 70 hours is probably good. So give yourself 18 months to build that time before you're at 1500. Okay, now let's take a look at these time building costs. So if you're gonna become a CFI, to build that time, the cost you're gonna have to come up with is the cost that it takes to be a CFI. So it can cost $5,000 to $10,000 that you gotta spend in order to be a CFI, and then you're building your time. And then you're getting paid for that, so that's all good. The next thing is your low-time pilot job. If you wanna get a low-time pilot job, generally speaking, you gotta get about 500 hours. Now, that's not all the cases, but generally speaking, it's about 500 hours. And so to build that time, it's gonna cost you about $22,000 to build from 250 or 300 up to 500 hours to be able to qualify for the lowest low-time jobs. So that's what you're looking at. But then if you're gonna self-fund, you're gonna pay for from 250 hours all the way to 1,500. At $100 an hour, it's gonna cost you $125,000. Just to put that in perspective, if you think that you're gonna just fly and pay. Now, if you got it, you got it. I ain't had it, so you know it wasn't me. But one thing that I would say is, I recommend this. I recommend that you get your CFI while also trying to find other opportunities, like if you wanna do pipeline, survey work, or other things, get your CFI, which opens doors for you. Get one of those other part-time jobs, and then fly with the little extra money you got. So if you do all three, that's gonna help move the process along as quickly as it can to get that time. It's all about get them hours. Build time, get them hours. So, you know, a couple things I did while I was building time was I did a lot of traveling to go visit places. I did instructing. I even flew warbirds while I was building my time. So there's a lot of creative ways out there to get there. But the main thing is you just gotta be out there grinding. Out there grinding. Get it. ATP CTP. So this is the course that's required before you can actually take your ATP check ride and be granted an airline transport pilot certificate. So it's about a week-long class. I think it's maybe like 10 days or something. And it's classroom. You learn about crew resource management. You learn about the airline industry. You learn about flying jets and transitioning to jets. And you get introduced into the jet simulator. Because when you get to your first jet job, you're gonna have to get in the sim, and this is a good intro to it. You also get a study guide to help you prepare for the written exam, because you gotta take a written exam. So when you're done with the ATP CTP, you'll be done with the course, you'll have the written exam done, you'll pass that, and then you'll be ready so that whenever you go to that jet job, you'll be able to get your ATP. Now, you might even be lucky enough that you get one of these jobs where they'll pay for your ATP CTP, so you ain't gotta come out of pocket. But if you do gotta come out of pocket, it's like $5,000 or something like that. So that's it, the ATP CTP, that's that bridge to get you to that next level. Your first jet job. Might be your last jet job if you like it. So this is the point where you actually go and get your first jet job. So you flying either Part 91, 135, jet charter, maybe 121, the regional, Part 121, maybe a major like Spirit or JetBlue or something, or ACMI. The good thing is right now, man, everything's still on fire. And even if it changed, these are still your great ways to get you into flying jets. And even though they talk about this pilot shortage and they want people to come in, doesn't mean that you take it lightly. When it comes time to get ready for these jobs and you got these interviews, you gotta make sure you're prepared. Make sure your logbook's straight. Make sure you do some type of interview prep. Be ready to go. Don't take it for granted, because you don't wanna be one of the people left because you ain't taking it seriously. You gotta make sure you take it seriously. Come and get this job. And like I said, some of these companies will even pay for your ATP CTP. So, you know, be on the lookout for that. There's bonuses, money, there's all sorts of stuff. So this is a great step, even if this is where you stop. Money is here. There we go. That jet job. Number 10. All right, number 10 is getting to the Legacy Airline. Getting to one of these airlines is winning. This is where we trying to get, right? This is the beginning of a multi-million-dollar career. You get here, you good. You know, the things they look at are, you know, about 1,000 hours of turbine time before you even can be competitive at one of the legacy carriers. Education, even though, don't be fooled, they say, yeah, it's not required that you got an education. It may not be required, but don't think it ain't a discriminator, you from somebody else. Education's always gonna help you out. Aptitude tests, multiple interviews, like it ain't an easy process. It's legit. But one thing I'll say is, before you get to this point, you wanna make sure that you are getting prepared prior to getting there. Don't wait till you put in your application, get interviewed, then start getting ready. You should be getting prepped as you're on your way to get here, because it's that important. And if you don't take it that serious, they ain't gonna take you serious. So just make sure that when you get to this point, you're taking it always serious. Put all your chips on the table and let's make it happen. Because this is where we win it at. The money, the benefits, the travel benefits, this is it. This is winning. You made it. If you get here, you win it. And that's what I told you, step 1 through 10, get here. Now, like I said, these are 10 steps. There might be a little bit of adjustments there, but ultimately, you follow this, you getting it. Now, you're gonna have to get more in depth in each of the steps, but that's it. It's 10 steps. You follow these steps, you in there, you win it. Don't try to do it by yourself, though. Get you a team. Get you a mentor, get you a coach, get you somebody to help you get through this process. You try to do this alone, I guarantee you it ain't happening. It's too hard. It's too hard, there's too many obstacles, there's too many things that you're gonna try to navigate that you just don't know about unless you've already been through it. So don't try to do it by yourself. There's no reason to. The thing you gotta do is make sure you show up. Show up, make it a priority, get out there, get these hours, fly, work hard, mess up, don't dwell on it, get better, keep it moving. That's what you do. There it is, 10 steps. Kenny T, I'm out.